Hi, this is Darren Drew from D. Drew Guitars. Today I'm going to show you how to sand in between your coats. This is lacquer um, resonator. You can see it's nice and shiny. I just put like 4 coats on, let it sit for a couple days. Now I'm going to wet sand it, and this is like in between coats because I'll put some more coats on it. And what this will do is it'll make it nice and deep finish, but I want to get all of like even the orange peel marks out. But this maple had a lot of deep crevices in it that I couldn't sand out per se. So I want to get all of that out so it's going to come out like a mirror when I'm done. So, one important thing about doing finishes like this and coming out with a mirror type finish is you need to sand it really well with like a block. This is like one of my favorite sanding blocks. I must have 100 sanding blocks. This one here has cork on it because I like it with the cork because it still makes it really nice and smooth and flat, but it has a little bit of give to it, which if you use just a hard block, like say this side of it, you're going to go through sandpaper. It's not going to come out near as well. You're going to spend twice as much time and you're going to go through twice as much sandpaper. So with this cork on it, it's flat enough to make it flat, but yet it has a lot of give to it, which is really helpful in stuff like this. Sometimes I use even a bigger block, like this. But this is my favorite one just for the size of it and stuff like that. But so anyway, what I've done was prep the wood with a block like this, get down to even 400 grit, do my finish color on it, and then I'll start applying coats. And I've done like 6 and then another 4 or 5. And then that's the stage I'm at now. So what I like to do is I will have it just like this right here in front of me. And I will get it really soaking wet. But this is my water, and I put a little dish soap in it just to help it become slipperier and that it won't clog the paper near as fast. Because even with this lacquer this fresh, it's still going to clog my paper. Any finish type will clog your paper. And then this is 800 grit, paper, 3M. Not the best, but it's like what you can get locally. And I always cut it with scissors. I don't never ever tear it because that's just wasting sandpaper and how much I go through. It lasts a lot better with nice, clean, straight edges too. Get that wet, get this wet. And then I will start out like at one side, at the edge, and mainly focus on just the edge right at this moment. May even switch hands, flip my block around in my hand, and do this, and then I'll go back over to get the center part of this side only. And I'll do this a couple of times. See, I can hear something scratching it, and it's the finish that's clogging it. So you want to listen as well as, while you're sanding it too. One thing you do not want to do is sand through your clear into a finish like this because it's going to be impossible to fill it in basically with color, on a spot that I sanded through. So you really don't want to do that. You want to be very careful of doing that. So now I'll grab this and just flip it around and do the same thing on this side. And the reason for this is that I know that it's evenly sanded from side to side all over it. If I do it in the same pattern, you can come up with your own. But that's the pattern I like to use because you don't want it sanded more over here than here because then you're going to end up sanding through here. So then a new piece of the paper, get this really nice and wet again. You can see all the bubbles, the soap bubbles. That's from the dish soap. And then I'll go through the same pattern. And the edges you got to be really careful about because that's where you'll sand through first, just because you happen to roll it over the edge and stuff like that. So the edges are always a lot harder to do. And I'll get the center of this. Actually, a couple of times. And then I'll dry it off and I'll look at it and then lay this block down like this so that the paper side is up, just so it doesn't pick up dust and dirt like that. Always use a fresh towel. My wife loves it. But that way it doesn't scratch or get scratched, because I'll be setting this up on the edge, sanding the edge of it also. Dry it off and then take a look at it in the light. I don't know if you can see it from there, but you can see the shiny spots, and that's where it's still not sanded yet. And this is kind of the tricky part, but you want to see if you can hold it up to the light and see how thick the finish is on it, so that you know if you can go farther or not. And one way to do that is, like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's bubbles or white shiny spots here. And if you look, try to look underneath them to see how much finish is under them, then that may tell you how much you can go with more sanding. You know, because I definitely don't want to go through, and that's really hard to tell on a lot of times. You know, it really is. I'll do this one more time, I think. And believe me, you'll start to see color if you sand through it. You'll start seeing color on your sandpaper. And a lot of times you can even wash your sandpaper off, you know, after you're done using it. So I'll go through and save up a bunch, and then I'll end up just washing it off. You know, and always move this to a different part of the paper so you can use all of the sandpaper. That way, the sandpaper is getting expensive, but I like to get the most out of it. You don't need to apply too much pressure. Let the sandpaper do the work. You know, just keep a nice, soft, controlled, you know, sanding pattern going. You know, you want to take it off, but not too much. It's a fine line that you got to decide on, you know, or depends on how you know you feel, if you're lucky or not that day. But you always want to keep a good eye on it. You know, I think I'll be fine right here, and then I'll dry it off and take another look. You know, I always keep doing this because it helps rinse the paper off. And then after this, I will apply more coats of clear, probably. Well, it depends on how many shiny spots I still see. But I'll probably apply another 4 coats and do this again. Lacquer, you end up, you know, using, you know, a quart, and you will sand 3/4 of it off. You know, that's just kind of the nature of the beast with this. Lacquer dries to the touch is one reason why. You know, as soon as you spray it, it's almost dried. You can touch it. But it takes years for it to really cure. That's why after some years, a lot of guitars you'll see cracking on it. You know, a lot of people really like that, but that's old lacquer. Yeah, see, now I can already see less shiny spots on here than there was before, without even holding it up to the light. So that's about as far as I think I really want to go with this. And then, I don't know if you can see it from there, but the shiny spots. And then I'll do the edge. And when I do the edges, I'll make this video short. I'll start it right here where I have a point where I know where I started, and use the same block, which is perfect. I'll go around this like 2 times and then call it a day with that. The edges, you'll always sand through the finish faster than any place, especially like on the very outer edges. So be careful of that. Keep your block nice and flat. And, you know, I'll continue on some more with this video demonstrating these resonators, because I'm doing 4 of them at the moment. So please like, please subscribe. This is Darren Drew saying thank you very much. I'll teach you some more tricks later. Bye.